The cleaning lady heard the millionaire's daughter crying every night what her father was doing. Through the opulent halls of the Aldridge mansion, where wealth whispered from every corner, Grace heard it again, the muffled sobs of a child trying desperately not to be heard. Young Mia's crying had become a nightly symphony of pain, echoing through the servants' quarters where even the walls seemed to hold their breath. But tonight was different. Tonight Grace watched as Anna, the new housekeeper, stood outside Mia's door, her hand trembling on the doorknob. What she would discover behind that door would shatter the perfect facade of the Aldridge family forever. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. Anna Mitchell stood before the imposing iron gates of the Aldridge mansion, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. At 32, this wasn't her first position as a housekeeper, but something about this place sent chills down her spine. Perhaps it was the way the Victorian architecture loomed against the grey sky, or how the perfectly manicured gardens seemed too precise, too controlled, much like the silent scars she still carried. 10 years ago, Anna had escaped her own nightmare of abuse at the hands of her stepfather. The memory still haunted her, the locked doors, the whispered threats, the crushing weight of silence. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece, but those experiences had left her with an acute sensitivity to the signs of suffering that others might miss. Grace, the mansion's cook, met her at the service entrance. The older woman's face was lined with years of witnessing things she couldn't change, her eyes carrying a burden that seemed too heavy to bear. "Listen carefully," Girl Grace said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Aldridge is very particular about how things are done. Keep your head down, do your work, and don't ask questions." As Grace led her through the mansion, Anna absorbed every detail. The marble floors gleamed like frozen lakes, their surface so polished she could see her reflection. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen tears from coffered ceilings, and priceless artwork adorned walls that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. But beneath the grandeur, there was something else, a coldness that no amount of luxury could warm. "Who takes care of the children?" Anna asked, noticing family portraits where smiles seemed forced and eyes held shadows. Grace's steps faltered slightly. "Master Lucas lives abroad now." Little Mia, she paused, choosing her words carefully. "She spends most of her time alone. Mrs. Lydia is always busy with her charity work, and Mr. Aldridge." Another pause, heavier this time. He has his own ways of handling things. Anna noticed a grand piano in one of the rooms, its lid closed like a sealed tomb. Sheet music lay scattered nearby, covered in a thin layer of dust. "Does anyone play?" she asked. "Mia used to," Grace replied, her voice tinged with sadness. "She had a gift. But Mr. Aldridge thought it was a distraction from her studies. The music stopped last summer." As they reached the service wing, Grace turned to Anna with an intensity that caught her off guard. "I had a daughter once," she said, her voice cracking slightly. Sarah, she was 15 when Grace's hands trembled as she smoothed her apron. "I didn't see the signs in time. I didn't protect her. She couldn't bear the weight anymore and she left the sentence unfinished." But Anna understood. "I'm so sorry," Anna whispered, reaching out to touch Grace's arm. "Just keep your eyes open," Grace replied, straightening her shoulders. "Sometimes silence screams louder than words in this house." That evening, as Anna unpacked in her small room in the service wing, she heard the faint sound of someone crying. The sound was so familiar it made her chest ache. She had cried like that once, muffling her sobs in a pillow, praying no one would hear. A noise in the hallway made her jump. Victor Aldridge passed by her open door, his expensive suit as immaculate as his reputation in the business world. He was known as a philanthropist, a man who donated millions to children's charities. But something in his eyes made Anna's skin crawl, a coldness that reminded her too much of her stepfather. "You're the new one?" he asked, his voice smooth as polished steel. "Yes, sir. Anna Mitchell." He nodded once, his gaze sweeping over her in a way that made her want to shrink into the shadows. "Remember your place here, Miss Mitchell. Some things are better left unquestioned." As his footsteps faded away, Anna closed her door and leaned against it, her heart racing. She knew that tone, that subtle threat wrapped in civility. She had escaped one house of shadows, only to find herself in another. But this time was different. This time she wasn't a helpless child. This time she had the strength to stand up against the darkness. As Mia's distant sobs echoed through the walls, Anna made a silent promise she wouldn't let another child's cries go unanswered. The mansion might be a masterpiece of architecture, but Anna could already sense it was built on a foundation of secrets and pain. And like the dusty piano in the corner, those secrets were waiting to be unveiled, one haunting note at a time. Victor Aldridge stood at the head of the breakfast table, the morning sun casting his shadow long across the polished wood. His presence commanded attention, every gesture calculated, every word measured with precision. To the outside world, he was the epitome of success, a self-made billionaire known for his generous donations to children's hospitals and education funds. The newspapers praised him as the children's champion, but within the mansion's walls, his philanthropy wore a different face. "Mia," he called, his voice carrying the peculiar softness that made his daughter flinch. "Sit up straight. A proper young lady doesn't slouch." 10-year-old Mia straightened immediately, her small hands trembling as she held her fork. Once a vibrant child with extraordinary musical talent, she now moved like a puppet on strings. Her dark eyes, so like her mother's, held a wisdom far beyond her years, the kind that comes from learning to survive. Sheet music still peeked out from her school bag, hidden like contraband. Lydia Aldridge swept into the room, impeccably dressed in designer clothes that seemed to armor her against reality. She kissed the air next to Mia's cheek, her perfume a cloud of expensive escape. "I had the children's hospital benefit today," she announced, avoiding her daughter's yearning gaze. "Don't wait up." Beneath Lydia's polished exterior lay a woman who had perfected the art of not seeing. She filled her days with charity events and social obligations, building walls of busyness against the truth that whispered through her home. But sometimes, in the quiet moments when she caught her reflection, guilt flickered across her face like a shadow. Grace moved silently around them, serving breakfast with practiced efficiency. Her movements were careful, her eyes always watching. 20 years in the Aldridge mansion had taught her the cost of speaking up. The ghost of her daughter Sarah haunted every corner. Sarah, who had faced similar demons in another house, who had chosen a permanent escape when the pain became too much. "The coffee's cold," Victor said quietly, his tone making Grace freeze. "You know how I like it, Grace. Don't make me remind you again." "Yes, Mr. Aldridge." Right away, Sir Grace's hands shook slightly as she reached for the cup, memories of Sarah overlapping with images of Mia. In his office in London, Lucas Aldridge stared at a photo of his sister on his desk. He had escaped the mansion's shadows years ago, building a successful career in finance, but guilt gnawed at him constantly. Every night he composed emails to Mia that he never sent, made phone calls he never completed. His father's influence reached even here, subtle threats about his career, about the scandals that could destroy everything he'd built. Rachel Dunn, the former nanny who had dared to question Victor's methods, now lived in a small apartment across town. Her once promising career in childcare lay in ruins, her reputation destroyed by Victor's carefully crafted accusations. But she kept a recording locked in her safe, a conversation that could shatter the Aldridge family's perfect facade. Simon Blake, chief of police and Victor's longtime friend, sat in his office reviewing files. He owed his career to Victor, a debt paid in willful blindness and buried reports. But lately, sleep eluded him, haunted by the eyes of children he'd failed to protect. "Your father called," Lydia mentioned casually to Mia, scrolling through her phone. He's very disappointed in your piano teacher's report. Perhaps it's best to focus on your studies instead." Mia's face fell, but she nodded silently. Under her bed lay a treasure trove of forbidden music compositions she wrote in secret, melodies that expressed what her voice could not. Music was her only escape, the only place where she felt free from her father's suffocating control. Grace watched the scene unfold, remembering Sarah's last words, "Nobody sees Mom. Nobody wants to see." She placed a fresh cup of coffee before Victor, her movement steady despite the storm in her heart. She had failed Sarah, but perhaps with Anna's help, Mia's story could have a different ending. Victor caught Grace's wrist as she turned away, his grip subtle but firm. "Remember what happened to the last person who tried to interfere, Grace. Some stories are better left untold." The threat hung in the air like poison gas, seeping into every corner of the room. Lydia busied herself with her phone, Mia stared at her untouched breakfast, and Grace nodded mechanically, thinking of Sarah's funeral and Rachel Dunn's ruined life. But now Anna had arrived, bringing with her the courage of someone who had faced their demons and survived. As she watched from the doorway, something shifted in the mansion's carefully maintained balance of power. The time for silence was ending, and the price of truth would soon come due. In this web of power, pain, and silence, each character carried their own wounds, their own secrets. But as the morning sun cast shadows across the breakfast table, none of them realized that their carefully constructed world was about to crumble, one painful truth at a time. The mansion's night air hung heavy with secrets as Anna made her rounds, checking windows and doors before retiring. Her footsteps echoed through empty hallways until a sound stopped her dead in her tracks: piano notes, soft and hesitant, drifting from the music room. It was well past midnight. Anna approached silently, drawn by the haunting melody. Through the crack in the door, she saw Mia sitting at the grand piano, her small fingers dancing across the keys in the moonlight. The girl played with such raw emotion that Anna felt her heart constrict. Suddenly, heavy footsteps approached. Mia's hands froze on the keys, terror flooding her face. Anna quickly ducked into an alcove as Victor Aldridge entered the music room. "What did I tell you about playing at night?" His voice was terrifyingly calm. "You disappoint me, Mia." "I'm sorry, Father," Mia whispered, her voice trembling. "The music, it helps me sleep." "Music won't secure your future," Victor said, closing the piano lid with a sharp snap that made Mia flinch. "Now, get your notebook. It's time for your nightly reflection." Anna watched, horror-struck, as Victor forced Mia to sit at a small desk. He handed her a pen and opened a leather-bound notebook. "Write it down, Mia. Write what we discussed about your mother." Mia's hand shook as she began to write. "Mother doesn't love me. She's always too busy. Only Father cares about my future." "Good girl," Victor murmured, his hand resting on Mia's shoulder in a way that made Anna's skin crawl. "Now write about how your music distracts you from your true potential." Tears rolled down Mia's cheeks as she wrote, each word a betrayal of her soul. Anna felt bile rise in her throat, memories of her own past threatening to overwhelm her. She knew this kind of manipulation, the way it poisoned a child's mind from the inside out. Later that night, after Victor had left and Mia's sobs had quieted, Anna slipped into the music room. The notebook lay forgotten on the desk. With trembling hands, she opened it, using her phone's flashlight to read. Page after page revealed Victor's systematic destruction of his daughter's self-worth. Forced confessions, manufactured guilt, elaborate lies about her mother's love, all designed to make Mia completely dependent on him. "You shouldn't be in here." Anna spun around to find Grace standing in the doorway, her face grave in the darkness. "Grace, have you seen these?" Anna held up the notebook. "He's destroying her, just like she couldn't finish the sentence." Grace moved closer, her eyes filled with unshed tears. Just like Sarah's father destroyed her, she finished. I find new notebooks every few months. He makes her burn the old ones. Why hasn't anyone stopped this? Rachel Dunn tried. Grace's voice was bitter. She was Mia's nanny last year. When she threatened to expose Victor, he destroyed her, made it look like she had stolen jewelry, spread rumors about inappropriate behavior with children. No one would hire her after that. Anna's mind raced. Where is Rachel now? Living across town, barely surviving. Grace hesitated, then pulled something from her apron pocket, a small tape recorder. I've been recording things. For years, since Sarah. I promised myself I'd never be silent again, but I was too afraid to use them. Anna stared at the device, understanding the tremendous risk Grace had taken. Does Victor know? If he did, I wouldn't be here. Grace's hands trembled. But what good is evidence when he owns half the police force and most of the judges in town? A noise from the hallway made them both freeze. Grace quickly tucked the recorder away as footsteps approached and retreated. There's something else, Grace whispered, leading Anna to a hidden panel behind the piano. Inside was a stack of sheet music, Mia's original compositions. The pages were filled with haunting melodies and lyrics that spoke of imprisonment, fear, and a desperate longing for freedom. She hides them here, Grace explained. It's the only way she can express what's happening to her. Victor would destroy them if he knew. Anna picked up one composition titled Daddy's Little Lies. The lyrics made her heart break. Smile for the camera, pretend we're okay. While darkness devours another day. Mother's not absent, she's just afraid of all the rules that Daddy made. We have to help her, Anna said firmly, her own past giving steel to her voice. Not just collect evidence, we need to get her out of here. Grace's eyes filled with fear. Victor will destroy anyone who tries. He has connections everywhere. The last time someone threatened to expose him, they found Rachel's car wrapped around a tree. The brake lines were cut, but the police ruled it an accident. Then we'll be smarter than Rachel was, Anna replied, her mind already forming a plan. We'll build a case so strong he can't escape it. But first we need to let Mia know she's not alone. As if in response, a soft cry echoed through the walls. Both women looked up, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they knew. Sarah used to cry like that, Grace whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't understand then. I thought it was just teenage angst. By the time I realized the truth, she couldn't continue. Anna gripped Grace's hand. This time will be different, she promised. This time we'll save her. They carefully replaced everything exactly as they'd found it, knowing that the slightest mistake could alert Victor. As they left the music room, the moon cast their shadows long across the floor, like prison bars that held the mansion's secrets. We'll need help, Grace said as they reached the service wing. Someone with power, someone Victor can't easily destroy. Anna thought of Lucas, Mia's absent brother. Maybe it's time for the prodigal son to return home. What neither woman knew was that upstairs, Mia lay awake, her pillow wet with tears, hoping that someone, somewhere, would finally hear her silent screams. In her hand, she clutched a crumpled piece of sheet music, her latest composition, titled The Sound of Breaking Silence. The mansion settled into its nightly quiet, but beneath the surface, something had shifted. The first cracks had appeared in Victor's carefully constructed facade, and through those cracks, truth was beginning to seep like water through stone. The address Anna held was barely legible, written on a scrap of paper Grace had pressed into her hand. Standing before the run-down apartment building where Rachel Dunn now lived, Anna felt the weight of what she was about to do. This wasn't just about gathering evidence anymore, it was about preventing another tragedy. Rachel opened the door cautiously, chain still in place. Her face, once bright and confident according to Grace's description, now bore the haunted look of someone who had lost everything. Who are you? I'm Anna Mitchell. "I work at the Aldridge mansion." Anna saw fear flash across Rachel's face. "Please, I need to talk to you about Mia." The door closed, then reopened fully. Rachel's apartment was small but meticulously neat, as if maintaining order in her physical space could compensate for how chaotic her life had become. News clippings about Victor's philanthropic work covered one wall, a shrine to hypocrisy. "You're the new housekeeper." Rachel's voice was hollow. "How long before you notice? How long before you start seeing the signs?" "I already have," Anna replied softly. "The notebooks, the forced confessions, the way he controls her music." Rachel's hands began to shake. She walked to a locked cabinet and pulled out a thick file. "I kept everything she said, even after the accident, even after they destroyed my reputation. I knew someday someone else would see the truth." The file contained photographs of bruises on Mia's arms, copies of the manipulated letters, and detailed notes of conversations Rachel had overheard. But most disturbing were the psychological assessments. "I was training to be a child psychologist before everything," Rachel explained. "The patterns were clear: systematic emotional abuse, manipulation, parentification. He's not just controlling Mia, he's reshaping her reality." "Why didn't the authorities help?" Anna asked, though she already suspected the answer. Rachel laughed bitterly. "I tried. Filed reports, contacted child services, but Victor's influence runs deep. The investigations disappeared, evidence vanished, and suddenly there were rumors about me. Horrible rumors." Her voice broke. "Then the accident happened. The police said the brake lines were old, that it was just bad luck. But I knew, everyone knew." As they talked, Anna noticed Rachel constantly checking the windows, flinching at every passing car. The fear had become part of her, just as it had become part of Mia. "There's something else," Rachel said, pulling out a small recording device. "I managed to save this before they fired me. It's Victor, talking to Mia late one night." The recording played, Victor's smooth voice filling the room. "You see, Mia, your mother doesn't understand you like I do. She's weak, distracted by her social life. Only I know what's best for you. Only I truly love you." Mia's small voice responded, "But Mom says she loves me." "She lies, sweetheart. They all lie. That's why you need to write the truth in your notebook, so you never forget who really cares about you." Anna felt sick. This is textbook gaslighting. "It gets worse," Rachel said, fast-forwarding the tape. "Listen to this part." Victor's voice again. "Remember what happened to your brother when he disobeyed? How his dreams fell apart? That's what happens to people who don't appreciate my love, Mia. But you're smarter than Lucas, aren't you?" Grace has been collecting evidence too, Anna revealed. Years of recordings, photographs, notes. But we need more. We need someone Victor can't silence. Rachel's eyes widened. "Grace? I always thought she knew more than she let on. After what happened to her daughter." "You knew about Sarah." Everyone in the house knew. It's why Grace stayed, I think. She sees Mia as her chance at redemption. Anna pulled out her phone, showing Rachel the photos she'd taken of Mia's hidden compositions. She pours everything into her music. The pain, the fear, the longing for her mother's love. Victor's trying to take even that away from her. Rachel studied the lyrics, her professional training kicking in. These aren't just songs, they're cries for help. The recurring themes of imprisonment, of being watched, of losing her voice. This is severe psychological trauma expressed through art. A car backfired outside, making Rachel jump. "You need to be careful," she warned. "Victor doesn't just destroy careers, he destroys lives. He'll discover you're here. He always knows." "Let him," Anna said firmly. "I've faced monsters before. The difference is, this time the monster picked the wrong fight." Before leaving, Rachel handed Anna a business card. "This is the detective who believed me. James Morrison. He couldn't prove anything then, but with more evidence. Back at the mansion, Anna found Grace waiting anxiously in the kitchen. "Did you see her? Did Rachel help?" Anna nodded, sharing what she'd learned. As they talked, a sound made them both turn. Mia stood in the doorway, her small figure silhouetted against the hallway light. "I heard you talking about Rachel," she said softly. "Father said she was a bad person who tried to hurt me, but she was nice to me. She let me play piano whenever I wanted." Anna's heart ached at the confusion in Mia's voice, the struggle between programmed loyalty to her father and her own true memories. "Mia," Anna said gently, "would you like to play piano now? Just for a little while." The girl's eyes lit up, then dimmed. "Father says it's a waste of time. He says it makes me weak, like Mother." "Your father isn't here right now," Grace said, her voice strong with newfound purpose. "And music could never make you weak, child. It makes you stronger." As Mia's fingers touched the keys, playing a melody that spoke of both pain and hope, Anna and Grace exchanged determined looks. The investigation had begun, and with each piece of evidence, each recorded conversation, each hidden composition, they were building a case that not even Victor Aldridge could escape. But in the shadows of the hallway, unnoticed by all, a security camera blinked its red eye, recording everything. Victor's web of control extended further than they knew, and the clock was ticking. Thank you for sharing this emotional journey with us. If you want to discover more powerful stories of courage, healing, and justice, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Together, let's give voice to those who have been silenced. Your support helps us tell stories that matter. Lucas Aldridge stood in his London office, staring at an email from Anna that would change everything. The subject line was simple: "Mia needs you." Attached were photos of his sister's notebooks, recordings of his father's manipulation, and most devastatingly, Mia's compositions, songs that spoke of a pain he'd tried so hard to forget. His hands trembled as he read the final lines: "Your sister is living your old nightmare. She plays piano in secret, just like you used to play violin before your father destroyed it. You escaped, Lucas. She can't." A memory surfaced himself at 13, his prized violin in pieces on the floor, Victor standing over him. "Music is for the weak," his father had said. "I'm doing this for your own good." Lucas's finger hovered over the delete button, his usual response to anything involving his family. His carefully built life in London felt safe. He was successful, respected, free from Victor's shadow. But was he really free? The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Aldridge, your father's on line 1. Lucas felt his chest tighten. Even thousands of miles away, Victor's timing was impeccable. He picked up the phone, his voice carefully neutral. "Father, I trust you've received some. Concerning communications about your sister." Victor's voice was smooth as aged whiskey. "Disgruntled employees spreading malicious lies. I'm handling it." "Is that what happened with Rachel Dunn?" Lucas surprised himself with the question. Was she spreading lies too? A pause. "Son, we've discussed this. Your position at Sterling Financial is quite prestigious. It would be a shame if certain information about your past indiscretions came to light." The threat was clear. Lucas's hands clenched into fists as he remembered the fabricated evidence his father held, photos and documents that could destroy his career, carefully constructed lies that would be impossible to disprove. "What do you want, Father?" "Stay in London. Focus on your career. Let me handle Mia's education my way." Another pause. "Unless you'd like the board to discover how you really secured that merger last year." After hanging up, Lucas sat in silence, his father's words echoing in his mind. On his desk, a photo caught his eye: himself and Mia at the piano, years ago, both smiling. It was the last time he'd seen her truly happy. His computer pinged with another email from Anna. "I found this in Mia's room attached. was a recording of Mia playing a piece he recognized, the lullaby he used to play for her on violin when their father's rages shook the house. Something inside Lucas broke. He'd spent years building walls to protect himself, but those walls had also trapped him in his own cowardice. He picked up his phone. "Sarah? Cancel all my meetings for the next month. Family emergency." Hours later, he walked through Heathrow Airport, a one-way ticket to home in his hand. His phone buzzed constantly, his father's associates already alerting him about Lucas's departure. Let them watch. Let them report back. He was done hiding. The Aldridge mansion looked exactly as he remembered, its imposing facade hiding years of carefully orchestrated abuse. Anna met him at the service entrance, her eyes wary but hopeful. "Your father's at a board meeting," she said. "Mia's in the music room." Lucas paused outside the door, hearing the familiar melody. His sister played their lullaby, each note a memory of everything he'd tried to forget. When he entered, Mia's hands froze on the keys. "Lucas," her voice was small, uncertain. "Father said you weren't coming back." "Father says a lot of things." Mia, he sat beside her on the piano bench. "Not all of them are true." Mia's fingers traced the keys without playing. "He says you abandoned us because you were weak, that you couldn't handle the pressure of being an Aldridge." Lucas felt the words like physical blows. "No, Mia, I left because I was scared, and leaving you here alone, that was the weakest thing I've ever done." She looked up at him, her eyes too old for her young face. "Are you going to leave again?" Before he could answer, Victor's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Well, well, the prodigal son returns." Lucas stood, positioning himself between his father and Mia. Gone was the scared teenager who'd fled years ago. In his place stood a man ready to face his demons. "Hello, father. We need to talk." Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Indeed we do. Mia, go to your room." "She stays," Lucas said firmly. "No more hiding. No more secrets." "Careful, son." Victor's voice was soft, dangerous. "You've built quite a life in London. Would be ashamed to see it crumble." "Go ahead," Lucas replied. "Destroy my career. Release your fabricated evidence. I don't care anymore." He turned to Mia, who watched with wide eyes. "I let him control me with fear, just like he controls you. But not anymore." Victor's facade cracked slightly. "You ungrateful." "What's going on here?" Lydia stood in the doorway, her perfect makeup unable to hide her concern. Behind her, Anna and Grace watched silently. "Mother," Lucas said, not taking his eyes off Victor, "when was the last time you really listened to Mia play? When was the last time you really looked at what's happening in your own home?" "That's enough." Victor moved forward, but Lucas stood his ground. "Play for them," Mia, Lucas said softly. "Play what you wrote. Show them your truth." Mia's hands shook as she reached for her hidden compositions. Victor stepped forward to stop her, but Lucas blocked his path. "Touch her," Lucas said quietly, "and I'll make sure every newspaper in the country knows exactly who the children's champion really is." The room held its breath as Mia began to play. Her music filled the space, raw and honest, each note exposing the years of manipulation and fear. Lydia's hand flew to her mouth as the lyrics spoke of lonely nights and a mother's absence. Grace wiped tears from her eyes, and even Anna, who had seen so much already, felt her heart break anew. Only Victor remained unmoved, his cold eyes calculating his next move. When the song ended, he simply straightened his tie. "We'll discuss this later," he said, his voice promising consequences. "All of us." As he left, Lucas knelt beside his sister. "I'm not leaving you again, Mia. Whatever happens next, we face it together." Mia hugged him fiercely, and for a moment she felt like the little girl he remembered before their father's ambition had poisoned everything. But Lucas knew this was just the beginning. Victor wouldn't let go of his control easily, and the real battle was yet to come. From the doorway, Anna watched the siblings' reunion, hope mixing with apprehension. The first major piece was in place, but Victor's rage would be terrible. They would need every bit of evidence, every ounce of courage, to survive what was coming. The war for Mia's freedom had truly begun. The morning after Lucas's return, Lydia Aldridge sat alone in her private sitting room, staring at a stack of notebooks Anna had carefully collected. Her perfectly manicured hands trembled as she read page after page of her daughter's forced confessions. Each word was a knife to her heart, exposing years of willful blindness. "Mummy doesn't love me enough to stay home. Mummy cares more about her charity events than me. Only Daddy understands what's best for me." A quiet knock interrupted her reading. Anna entered, carrying a silver tray with tea, followed by Grace. Behind them came Lucas, his face grim with determination. "There's more," Lucas said softly, placing a laptop before her. "Listen." The recording played, filling the room with Victor's voice. "See how she neglects you, Mia. Your mother's love is conditional. Only my love is pure. Now write it down, exactly as I say." Lydia's teacup clattered against its saucer. "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop." "We can't stop," Mrs. Aldridge, Anna said firmly. "You need to see everything. For Mia's sake." Grace stepped forward, her usual deference replaced by quiet strength. "I lost my Sarah because I chose not to see. Don't make the same mistake." Lydia's carefully constructed world was crumbling. Years of focusing on charity work, of drowning herself in social obligations to avoid the truth at home, it all felt hollow now, I thought. I thought I was protecting her by staying away. Victor said my hovering would make her weak. "He manipulated all of us," Lucas said, sitting beside his mother, "made us believe his abuse was love, but look, he opened one of Mia's hidden music books. This is how she really feels." The composition was titled Mummy's Empty Chair. The lyrics spoke of watching her mother's car leave each morning, of setting a place at dinner that remained empty, of crying herself to sleep wondering if she wasn't good enough to keep her mother home. Tears smeared Lydia's perfect makeup. "My baby, what have I done?" "It's not too late," Anna urged, "but we need your help. Victor's influence runs deep: police, judges, child services. With your support, we might have a chance to save Mia." A sound at the door made them all turn. Mia stood there, small and uncertain, drawn by the sound of her mother's crying. For a moment no one moved. Then Lydia opened her arms and Mia ran to her, breaking years of careful distance. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," Lydia sobbed, holding her daughter close. "I'm so sorry." "Is it true?" Mia whispered. "Do you really love me?" Father said. "Everything your father said was a lie," Lydia said fiercely. "I love you more than anything. I was weak and scared, but not anymore." As mother and daughter clung to each other, Anna shared a meaningful look with Lucas. Phase 1 was complete. Lydia was awake at last. But they all knew Victor wouldn't let his control slip away easily. "We need to move carefully," Lucas warned. "Father has eyes everywhere." Grace nodded. Rachel Dunn learned that the hard way. Lydia looked up, realization dawning. The accident. Victor said she was unstable, that she'd made up lies about him. "She's alive," Anna said. "Barely surviving, but still fighting. She has evidence: 2 recordings, photographs, psychological assessments." Lucas pulled out his phone. "I've been making calls. There's a detective, James Morrison, who's been building a case against Father for years. He just needed more proof, more witnesses willing to speak. And now he has us," Lydia said, her voice stronger. She looked down at Mia, who had fallen asleep in her arms, exhausted by emotion. "What do we do first?" "We document everything," Anna explained. "Every interaction, every threat, every manipulation. Grace has been recording for years. With your testimony, Mrs. Aldridge, and Lucas's evidence of financial manipulation. But financial manipulation? Lydia asked sharply. Lucas's face darkened. Father's philanthropy isn't as clean as it appears. I've found irregularities, money from his children's charities being funneled into offshore accounts, donations that never reach their intended recipients. The children's champion, Grace said bitterly, if only they knew. A noise from downstairs interrupted them, Victor's car pulling into the driveway. They quickly gathered the evidence, hiding it in the secret panel behind the piano that had become their communication center. Remember, Anna warned, we have to act normal. If he suspects anything. I know how to play Victor's game, Lydia said, carefully wiping her tears and reapplying her makeup. I've been doing it for years, but now I'm playing to win. As Victor's footsteps approached, they dispersed to their usual positions, Grace to the kitchen, Anna to her cleaning, Lucas to the study. Only Lydia remained, still holding her sleeping daughter, finally ready to be the mother Mia needed. Touching scene, Victor said from the doorway, his voice carrying that familiar dangerous softness. Family reunions always are. Lydia met his gaze steadily. Yes, they are. Something flickered in Victor's eyes, suspicion, perhaps, or the first hint of fear. He was a man accustomed to absolute control, and suddenly his pieces weren't moving as predicted. Don't forget the hospital benefit tonight, dear, he said smoothly. Your presence is expected. I'm staying home with Mia tonight, Lydia replied. She needs her mother. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. We'll discuss this later. As he left, the Alliance members shared knowing looks. The battle lines were drawn. With Lydia's awakening, they had gained a powerful ally, but they had also lost the element of surprise. Victor would be watching more closely now, looking for signs of rebellion. In the kitchen, Grace quietly activated her recorder, catching Victor's muttered phone call. Blake. We may have a problem. Watch them all. Especially my wife. The game had changed, and the stakes were higher than ever. But for the first time, hope felt stronger than fear in the halls of the Aldridge mansion. Later that night, as a full moon cast shadows through the windows, Anna sent a message to Rachel Dunn. We have Lydia. The falcon is leaving the nest. Be ready. The pieces were in place. The real war was about to begin. Detective James Morrison sat at his cluttered desk, examining the evidence spread before him. Photographs of Mia's notebooks, Grace's recordings, Rachel's psychological assessments, and most damning of all, Lucas's financial documents revealing the dark underbelly of Victor's charitable empire. This is bigger than we thought, he said, looking up at the group gathered in his office. Anna, Lucas, Lydia, and Rachel sat before him, while Grace had stayed at the mansion to watch over Mia. Victor's not just abusing his family, he's built an entire system of corruption around his public image. Lucas pointed to a complex web of financial transactions. The children's hospitals, the education funds, they're all fronts. Father's been siphoning millions into private accounts. The real tragedy is that genuine cases of child abuse get buried under his charitable influence. That's how he silenced me, Rachel added, her voice bitter. He donated so much to child protection services that no one would investigate him. The system meant to protect children became his shield. Morrison picked up one of Mia's compositions, reading the lyrics aloud behind the camera's flash. Truth hides in plain sight. Daddy's perfect world built on children's fright. She's been telling us all along, Lydia whispered, guilt etching deeper lines around her eyes. Through her music, her art, we just weren't listening. Anna pulled out her phone, playing a recent recording, Victor's voice coaching Mia through another forced confession, his tone sickeningly gentle as he manipulated her emotions. The detective's face hardened as he listened. This is textbook psychological abuse, Morrison said, but Victor's lawyers will argue it's just a father's strict discipline. We need more. What about this? Lucas produced a USB drive. Financial records showing how father threatened my career in London. Emails proving he blackmailed board members, fabricated evidence against competitors. Morrison nodded slowly. Now we're talking. Financial fraud is harder to dismiss than emotional abuse. But we need to move carefully. Victor has judges in his pocket, police officers on his payroll. Like Simon Blake? Anna asked. The detective's expression darkened. Blake's been burying reports about Victor for years. Claims of abuse, suspicious accidents, they all disappear on his watch. Then we go above them, Lydia said firmly. I've spent years in Victor's social circle. I know which reporters can't be bought, which officials still have integrity. But Mrs. Aldridge, Morrison warned, if we do this, there's no going back. Victor won't just lose control, he'll lose everything. Men like him don't fall quietly. I've been quiet too long, Lydia replied, her voice steel. My silence helped him destroy my children. That ends now. They spent hours building their case, connecting dots that had been intentionally scattered. Rachel's accident, Grace's daughter's suicide, the string of fired employees who dared to question Victor. A pattern emerged of systematic destruction of anyone who threatened his control. Look at this, Lucas said, pulling up a document. Father's charitable foundation has a special fund for family support services, but the money goes to private investigators, surveillance companies. He's been watching us all on, Rachel realized. Even now. Morrison's phone buzzed a text from a trusted source. Victor's meeting with Blake right now. They know we're gathering evidence. Then we don't have much time, Anna said. He'll try to destroy everything, silence everyone. As if on cue, Lydia's phone rang, Victor's name flashing on the screen. She put it on speaker. Darling, his voice oozed false concern. I'm worried about Lucas. He seems unstable. Perhaps that pressure in London was too much. I've arranged for him to take a rest at a private facility. No more threats. Victor. Lydia cut him off. No more manipulation. A pause. When Victor spoke again, the facade of concern was gone. You disappoint me, Lydia. After everything I've done for this family. Remember what happened to Rachel when she turned against me. That could seem merciful compared to what's coming. Are you threatening me? Victor. Lydia's voice was steady. In front of witnesses. Another pause. Witnesses? My dear, who would believe you over me? I'm the children's champion, remember? The papers love me. The police respect me. You're just a socialite who neglected her children for charity events. We have evidence, Lucas interjected, all of it. The financial fraud, the abuse, everything. But Victor's laugh was cold. Evidence can disappear, son. People can disappear. Ask Detective Morrison about all the cases that vanished from his desk. Morrison leaned forward. Not this time, Victor. The silence that followed was deadly. James? You're involved in this unfortunate situation. The game's over, Victor. We're building a case that not even you can bury. We'll see. Victor's voice turned silky. Oh, and Lydia. Mia's piano lesson ran late. She's with me now. Such a shame if her fingers were to have an accident. Children are so fragile. Lydia's face went white. Anna quickly dialed Grace, putting it on speaker. Mia's safe. Grace's voice came through. She's right here with me. Victor's bluffing. They heard Victor's sharp intake of breath, his lie exposed. You all seem to have forgotten who I am, he said softly. What I'm capable of. By tomorrow morning, Morrison's evidence will vanish. Lucas's career will be in ruins. Rachel's tragic accident will repeat itself. And Mia, poor, talented Mia, will learn what happens to disobedient children. The line went dead. Morrison immediately sprang into action, calling trusted officers to protect key evidence. Lucas started backing up files to secure servers. Rachel's hands shook as she remembered her own accident. "We need to move faster," Anna urged. "Tonight. We take everything to the media, file charges, get a protection order for Mia." "No," Lydia said suddenly. "First we get Mia out. Nothing else matters if she's not safe." Morrison nodded. "I'll have officers I trust watching the mansion, but Victor can't know we're moving her." "Where would she be safe?" Lucas asked. "Father's influence reaches everywhere." "Not everywhere," Rachel said quietly. "I have a friend who runs a music school in Vermont, off the grid, specialized in helping traumatized children heal through art. Victor would never think to look there." Anna's phone buzzed a text from Grace. "Victor's heading home. He looks angry. Mia's scared." They quickly formulated a plan. While Victor was distracted by the apparent investigation, they would secretly move Mia to safety. Only then would they spring the trap, exposing everything at once: the abuse, the financial crimes, the years of manipulation. Remember, Morrison warned as they prepared to leave, Victor's most dangerous when cornered. Watch every shadow, trust no one outside this room. As they walked to their cars, the weight of what they were attempting hung heavy in the air. They were challenging a man who had spent decades building a fortress of power and influence. One wrong move, and they would all pay dearly. But looking at Mia's composition book, at the pain poured into every note and lyric, they knew there was no turning back. The storm was coming, and this time Victor Aldridge would not escape its fury. Simon Blake sat across from Victor Aldridge in the dimly lit study, the air thick with tension. The police chief's usual confidence had cracked, showing the nervous man beneath the badge. "Morrison's gone rogue," Blake reported. "He's got files, recordings, financial documents, and Lydia. She's talking to reporters, ones we can't control." Victor swirled his whiskey, his calm exterior betraying none of the rage beneath. "Interesting how quickly loyalty crumbles, isn't it, Simon? Tell me, does your wife know about that offshore account? The one where I've been depositing your consultation fees?" Blake's face paled. "Victor, I've always been loyal." "Then prove it." Victor's voice cut like ice. "I want Morrison's investigation shut down, tonight. And I want Lucas destroyed professionally, personally, completely. But the evidence will disappear. Just like Rachel Dunn's brake lines disappeared. Just like your gambling debts disappeared." Victor leaned forward. "Or should I remind you what happens to people who fail me?" As Blake hurried away, Victor made another call. "Peter, it's time. Release everything we have on Lucas. Every fabricated document, every manufactured scandal. I want his reputation in ashes by morning." Peter Collins, Victor's longtime lawyer, hesitated. "Sir, if this backfires." "It won't. And Peter, make sure those custody papers are ready. Once Lucas is discredited and Lydia's deemed unstable, Mia will be mine legally, forever." Meanwhile, at the mansion, Grace watched Mia practicing piano, her small fingers dancing across the keys as if they could ward off the darkness closing in. Anna stood guard by the door, every shadow making her jump. Lucas burst in, his face ashen. "They're moving faster than we thought. Father's released the fabricated evidence. Every financial paper in London is running stories about my corruption. My accounts are frozen. The board is calling for my resignation." Anna touched his arm gently. "Lucas." "That's not all." He cut her off. Rachel called. Someone broke into her apartment, took everything. All her evidence, all her notes about Mia's abuse. "Grace's recordings?" Anna asked urgently. "Safe, for now. But Father's lawyers are filing for emergency custody of Mia. They're painting Lydia as an unstable socialite who neglected her daughter for years." Mia's music stopped abruptly. "I don't want to go with him," she whispered, terror making her voice shake. "Please don't let him take me." Before they could respond, the mansion's security system beeped Victor was home. They quickly hid the evidence, resuming their practiced roles. But something had changed. The air felt charged, dangerous. Victor swept in, Peter Collins at his heels, clutching legal documents. "Mia, darling, pack your things. The court agrees you'll be safer with me until this unfortunate situation is resolved." No, the word came from Lydia, who appeared in the doorway. "You're not taking her anywhere." "Ah, my dear." Victor's smile was shark-like. "I was hoping you'd be here. Peter, show her the papers." Collins stepped forward, producing a thick document. "Mrs. Aldridge, given your history of neglect and your recent erratic behavior, the court has granted Mr. Aldridge temporary sole custody." "Those papers were filed an hour ago," Anna interrupted. "How did you get a judge's ruling so quickly?" Victor's eyes flashed. "Questioning the legal system, Miss Mitchell. Careful. That could be construed as interference with a court order. A criminal offense. Like bribing judges," Lucas challenged. "Like fabricating evidence." "Speaking of evidence," Victor turned to his son, "I hear London's quite upset with you. Fraud allegations, insider trading. Such a shame. Your career was so promising." Grace moved closer to Mia, who had begun to tremble. Victor noticed his smile widening. "Grace. Loyal, silent Grace. Tell me, how's your daughter?" Oh wait, his voice dripped false sympathy. "Such a tragedy. She was Mia's age, wasn't she? When she chose to leave this world." Grace's face went white. Anna grabbed her arm as she swayed. "You bastard," Lucas snarled. "Language, son. We wouldn't want to traumatize Mia further. The court might see that as an unsafe environment." Victor checked his watch. "Now, Mia, your things." "She's not going," Lydia repeated. "Stop me." Victor's mask slipped, showing the predator beneath. "Try to stop me, and Lucas's career won't be the only thing destroyed. That detective, Morrison? One phone call, and 20 years of police work vanish in a corruption scandal? Rachel Dunn? Another tragic accident waiting to happen, and you. Lydia, every charity board you sit on will learn about your prescription drug habits. I don't take. The receipts say otherwise. Amazing what money can buy, including pharmaceutical records." The room fell silent, the weight of Victor's threat settling like poison gas. He had prepared for this, had ammunition ready for everyone who dared oppose him. "You see," he continued smoothly, "I've built this family's legacy brick by brick. I won't let any of you destroy it. Mia stays with me. The rest of you, well, that depends on your next move." Mia began to cry silently, the way she'd learned to avoid attention. The sound seemed to break something in Lydia. "I'll go public," she said desperately. "Tell everything to the press." "With what proof?" "Morrison's evidence is disappearing as we speak. Rachel's testimony is worthless. Who'd believe a disgraced nanny with a history of mental instability? Grace's recordings," he smiled at the cook's shocked face. "Oh yes, I know about those. They've already been confiscated as illegally obtained evidence." Anna felt the walls closing in. Victor had outmaneuvered them at every turn, using his wealth and influence to corrupt the very systems meant to protect the innocent. "1 hour," Victor announced. "Pack her things, say your goodbyes. Fight this, and I'll destroy each of you so thoroughly, you'll wish you'd never heard the name Aldridge." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Anna, your stepfather sends his regards. Interesting man. Very. Informative about your past. Perhaps Mia should hear those stories." Anna's world tilted. He'd found her abuser, had probably paid him to revive her worst nightmares. As Victor left, they stood in stunned silence. All their careful plans, all their gathered evidence, he'd countered everything. The monster they'd tried to trap had turned out to be far more dangerous than they'd imagined. Mia sat at the piano, her fingers hovering over the keys she might never touch again. "I don't want to go," she whispered. "Please, I'll be good. I'll stop playing. Just don't let him take me." The group exchanged desperate looks. They had 1 hour to save Mia, but Victor held all the cards. Or did he? Grace suddenly straightened, a strange light in her eyes. "Sarah left a letter," she said quietly. "Before she. I never showed anyone. But maybe it's time." A small flame of hope flickered in the darkness. They had 1 hour to turn the tables on Victor Aldridge. 1 hour to prove that even the most carefully constructed houses of cards can fall. The clock was ticking. The courthouse loomed before them like a fortress, its marble steps already crowded with reporters. Victor's PR machine had been working overtime, painting a story of a concerned father protecting his daughter from an unstable mother and a disgraced brother. Inside Judge Allen's chambers, the air was thick with tension. Victor sat with Peter Collins, the picture of paternal concern. Across the table, Lydia, Lucas, and their lawyer watched as Morrison laid out their evidence. "Your Honor," Morrison began, "what you're about to see reveals years of systematic abuse disguised as privilege." Objection, Collins interrupted smoothly. "Detective Morrison's involvement is a clear conflict of interest. He's been pursuing a vendetta against my client." "Because your client has been buying off other officers," Morrison countered, producing documents, like Chief Blake, who's currently under investigation for accepting bribes. Judge Allen, a man known for his unshakable integrity, studied the papers. "Proceed, detective." Grace's testimony came first. Her hands trembled as she removed a worn envelope from her apron pocket. "This is my daughter Sarah's last letter," she said, her voice steady despite her tears. "She wrote it before taking her life. She was Victor Aldridge's victim too." Victor's mask slipped slightly. This was unexpected. "Grace Reed, dear Mum, Mr. Aldridge says no one will believe me. He says he'll destroy you if I tell. But I can't stay silent anymore. The things he does, the ways he touches us during our special lessons." Objection, Collins jumped up. "This is hearsay from a disturbed teenager." "From a child who chose death over silence," Grace continued, her voice stronger. "Sarah wasn't his only victim. There were others at his children's centers. Girls who disappeared from his charitable programs." Judge Allen leaned forward. "Mr. Collins, sit down. Continue, Mrs. Wilson." Rachel Dunn testified next, her professional training adding weight to her observations. The psychological manipulation of Mia follows a clear pattern of abuse. The forced letters, the isolation from her mother, the use of music as both reward and punishment. "My client was simply providing structure," Collins argued. "Mrs. Aldridge's neglect required a firm hand." "My neglect," Lydia stood, shaking off her lawyer's restraining hand. "Show them the surveillance photos, Victor. Show them how you monitored my every move, how you orchestrated every absence, every missed dinner." Victor remained impassive, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. Lucas presented the financial evidence next. "These documents show how my father used his children's charities to hide money laundering, to fund private investigators who stalked his victims, to bribe officials." "Your Honor," Collins interjected, "Mr. Aldridge Jr. is hardly a credible witness. His recent scandal in London was fabricated," Lucas countered, producing emails. "Here's proof that father orchestrated my destruction when I refused to stay silent." The evidence mounted Grace's recordings, Rachel's psychological assessments, financial documents showing Victor's web of corruption. But it was Mia's testimony that changed everything. She entered the chamber clutching her composition book, looking tiny in her blue dress. Anna sat beside her for support, while Victor watched with calculating eyes. "Mia, sweetheart," Collins began kindly, "your father only wants what's best." No, Mia's voice was small but clear. He wants me to be his puppet, like the others. The room stilled. What others? Mia Judge Allen asked gently. The girls from his special music program. They came for lessons at the mansion. When they cried, he said they were just homesick. But I heard them begging him to stop. Victor's composure cracked. She's confused. Imaginative children often. I wrote songs about it, Mia continued, opening her book. About Sarah, about Rachel's accident, about the girls who disappeared. Daddy said no one would believe me. That's why he made me write the other letters, the lies about Mom. Her small fingers traced the music notes as she read. Silent girls in matching dresses, playing songs of their distresses. Daddy's special music school, where broken spirits are his tool. Judge Allen's face hardened. Mr. Eldridge, you'll remain in this chamber while I issue a warrant. Victor stood abruptly. This is absurd. I've dedicated my life to helping children. Ask anyone in the community. Ask Chief Blake. Chief Blake confessed an hour ago, Morrison interrupted, holding up his phone. He's trading information for leniency. The whole house of cards is falling, Victor. But for a moment, something inhuman flashed across Victor's face. Then he lunged toward Mia. If I'm going down, he snarled, you're coming with me. You're mine. You've always been mine. Several things happened at once. Lucas jumped to protect his sister. Anna pulled Mia away. Security officers rushed forward, and Victor, the great children's champion, showed his true face at last. You think this ends here? He shouted as they restrained him. I own this town. I own all of you. No, Victor, Judge Allen said quietly. You own nothing now. As they led Victor away, Mia clung to her mother and brother. Years of fear and silence poured out in racking sobs. Is it over? She whispered. Really over? Almost, Morrison answered, watching Victor disappear down the hallway. But men like him don't go quietly. Stay alert. How right he was. None of them saw Victor slip something from his sleeve to his hand as they led him out. None of them noticed his slight smile as he glanced back at his family one last time. The battle was won, but the war wasn't over. Victor Eldridge had one last card to play, and it would shake them all to their core. The price of truth was about to get higher than any of them could have imagined. As the courthouse emptied, Victor's apparent defeat seemed complete. But in the back of a police car, his smile grew wider as he pressed a hidden button on his watch, a signal that would set his final plan in motion. Meanwhile, at the Aldridge mansion, the celebration was cautious. Lydia held Mia close as she played the piano freely for the first time in years. Lucas and Anna watched from the doorway, their relief tinged with lingering unease. Grace's phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. Check the old music room recordings. Her face went pale as she listened through her headphones. Anna, she called urgently. You need to hear this. The recording was from years ago. Victor speaking to someone. If I ever go down, you know what to do. The evidence is in the safe. Destroy them all. Before they could process this, Morrison burst in. We have a problem. Victor's escaped custody. What? Lucas stepped forward. How? The transport was ambushed. Professional job. And there's more. All our electronic evidence is being wiped. Someone's hacked the police servers, the cloud storage, everything. Lydia instinctively pulled Mia closer. He planned this. All of it. That's not all, Morrison continued grimly. There's a broadcast going live across all major networks. They turned on the TV to see Victor, immaculately dressed, standing in front of his children's hospital wing. My fellow citizens, he began, his voice dripping sincerity. Today you witnessed a terrible attempt to destroy not just me, but the charitable work that has helped thousands of children. Let me show you the truth. The camera panned to edited footage Lydia at parties while Mia sat alone, Lucas making seemingly shady deals in London, Rachel appearing unstable and angry. These people claim to protect children, Victor continued. But look closer. My wife, neglecting our daughter for social status. My son, embezzling from children's charities. And now they've kidnapped my beloved Mia, using her innocent music to craft false accusations. Mia began to tremble. He's going to take me back, she whispered. Like hell he is, Lucas snarled, but his phone was already buzzing with calls from London. The fabricated evidence was spreading like wildfire. Suddenly the mansion's lights went out. Emergency locks engaged Victor's smart home system, turning against them. Grace, Anna called. The back stairs. Sealed, Grace replied, trying the door. We're trapped. Morrison drew his gun as shadows moved outside the windows. He's not just trying to discredit you anymore. He's going to eliminate everyone who knows the truth. Through the security cameras, they watched armed men entering the mansion. Not random thugs, professional mercenaries. The panic room, Lydia said suddenly. Victor doesn't know I changed the codes. They hurried through dark hallways, hearing footsteps echo behind them. Mia clutched her composition book, her testimony, her truth, refusing to leave it behind. Reaching the panic room, Lydia punched in the new code. The door opened agonizingly slowly. Well, Victor's voice came from the shadows. Predictable as always, my dear. He stepped into view, flanked by armed men. Gone was the polished philanthropist. This was the predator beneath the mask. Did you really think I'd surrender 40 years of power? That I'd let you take what's mine? His laugh was hollow. Everything you have, everything you are, I created it all. You created nothing. Lucas stepped forward. You only destroy. Destroy. Victor's eyes glittered. I elevated this family from nothing. I made us royalty. And this is how you repay me. He focused on Mia. Come here, sweetheart. Time to go home. She is home, Anna said firmly, stepping in front of Mia, with people who actually love her. Victor's smile turned cruel. Ah, the brave little housekeeper. Tell me, Anna, how's your stepfather? He's very interested in reconnecting. In fact, a gunshot cracked through the air. Victor staggered, looking down at his chest in surprise. Behind him stood Grace, holding a small revolver. Sarah's father gave me this, she said quietly, before Victor destroyed him too. I've carried it every day since Sarah died, waiting for this moment. The armed men raised their weapons, but Morrison's voice rang out, police. Drop your weapons. SWAT teams burst through windows and doors. Morrison's backup had arrived. In the chaos, Victor slumped against the wall, his blood staining his expensive suit. You think this ends with me? He gasped, looking at his family with hatred. I've archived everything, every secret, every sin. Dead man's switch. When my heart stops, it all goes public. Everyone falls. With me. Mia stepped forward, surprising everyone. She looked at her father without fear for the first time. Then let it all come out, she said clearly. I'm not afraid anymore. Victor's eyes widened as he saw his daughter, truly saw her for the first time. Not a possession, not a puppet, but a person who had survived him. His control was broken. As paramedics rushed in, Victor Aldridge, the great children's champion, finally faced the truth. He had lost everything that actually mattered. But even as they led the mercenaries away, even as Victor was rushed to surgery, his words hung in the air, dead man's switch. The night wasn't over. Victor's last revenge was still coming. And somewhere in the city's digital network, a timer was counting down, preparing to release 40 years of carefully gathered secrets that could destroy not just the Aldridge family, but half the city's elite. The price of freedom was about to get higher than any of them had imagined. If this story touched your heart, there's so much more to come. Hit subscribe and the notification bell to join us for more powerful narratives of courage, redemption, and justice. Together, we'll give voice to the voiceless. Your support helps these important stories be told. In the sterile hospital corridor, the rhythmic beeping of machines marked Victor Aldridge's tenuous hold on life. Grace's bullet had missed his heart but punctured his lung. As doctors worked to save him, his final plan was already in motion. Detective Morrison's phone buzzed continuously as reports flooded in. "It's starting," he announced grimly to the group huddled in the waiting room. Victor's dead man's switch activated when his heart rate dropped during surgery. Encrypted files are being released across the internet every hour. Lucas scrolled through his phone, face ashen. He had dirt on everyone. Judges, politicians, business leaders, decades of blackmail material. The whole city's imploding. "Look at this," Anna said, showing them a news alert. 3 prominent judges have already resigned. The police commissioner just called an emergency press conference. Lydia sat with Mia, who hadn't spoken since they'd arrived at the hospital. The girl's composition book lay open in her lap, her fingers tracing the notes of her latest piece, The Price of Freedom. "He's punishing everyone," Mia said finally, her voice barely a whisper, like he always said he would. Grace stood by the window, the weight of Sarah's memory heavy in her heart. Even dying, he won't let go of control. A doctor emerged from the operating room, his expression grave. "Mr. Aldridge is asking for his family. He doesn't have much time." They exchanged uncertain looks. After everything, did they owe Victor even this final audience? "I want to see him," Mia said unexpectedly. "One last time." In the ICU, Victor lay surrounded by machines, his powerful frame diminished, but his eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, were as sharp as ever. "Come to watch me die," he wheezed, a ghostly smile playing on his lips, "or to beg me to stop the releases." "No, Father," Mia stepped forward, clutching her composition book. "I came to play for you. One last time." A nurse quickly brought a portable keyboard from the children's ward. In the sterile hospital room, Mia began to play not one of her sad compositions about abuse and fear, but something new, a piece about healing, about letting go. Victor's heart monitor spiked erratically. "You think this changes anything?" he gasped. "When I die, everything burns, every secret, every lie, your precious reputations." "We know," Victor, Lydia said quietly. "Let it burn. We're not hiding anymore." "The truth is already out," Lucas added. "Your power was always built on fear, and we're not afraid anymore." Victor's laugh turned into a cough, blood staining his lips. "Afraid? You should be. You have no idea. The final file. Mia's real father." The monitor screamed as Victor's heart rate plummeted. Doctors rushed in, pushing the family aside as they fought to stabilize him. "Authorization code," Morrison demanded. "Stop the releases." Victor's eyes locked onto Mia, still playing her healing melody. For a moment something flickered in his gaze: regret? Recognition? Then his face contorted into a final, triumphant sneer. "The code dies with me," he whispered. "My last gift, to my loving family." The monitor flatlined. As doctors called time of death, Mia's music faded to silence. Victor Aldridge, the great manipulator, was gone, but his shadow still loomed over them all. Morrison's phone buzzed again. The releases are accelerating. Whatever's in that final file. "Is there any way to stop it?" Anna asked. "Not without his authorization code. His servers are military-grade encrypted. By morning, every secret he collected will be public." Lydia touched Mia's shoulder gently. "What did he mean about your real father?" Before Mia could respond, Grace rushed in, her face pale. The hospital's computer system. It's crashed. All their records, patient histories. Not just the hospital, Lucas reported, checking his phone, banks, government offices, police databases, everything Victor had access to is being corrupted. He's not just releasing secrets, but he's destroying the whole system. Morrison finished, taking the city down with him. In the chaos that followed, as institutions crumbled and reputations burned, Mia returned to her keyboard. Her fingers found the melody again, that song of healing, of moving forward. "Listen," she said suddenly, "the pattern. It's not random." They gathered around as she played the sequence again. "Father made me practice scales for hours, specific patterns, but they weren't just exercises." Lucas's eyes widened. They were codes. He was programming you, teaching you the key without you knowing it. His ultimate backup, Anna realized, hidden in plain sight, in the one thing he tried to control most. Mia's music. As the city descended into chaos around them, a dead man's final revenge unfolding in every computer system, they had found a glimmer of hope in the last place they expected, in the very talent Victor had tried so hard to suppress. But could they decode it in time? And more importantly, what would they find in that final file, the truth about Mia's parentage that Victor had saved as his ultimate weapon? The night was far from over, and Victor Aldridge still had secrets to reveal. The dawn broke over a city in chaos. As Victor's dead man switch continued its systematic destruction, the Aldridge family gathered in the mansion's music room, watching Mia work through endless musical combinations. "It has to be here," she muttered, her small fingers flying over the keys. "Every scale, every pattern he forced me to practice." Lucas studied the sheet music, translating notes into potential number sequences. Anna stood nearby, supporting him despite her exhaustion. The weight of Victor's final words about Mia's parentage hung heavy in the air. Lydia sat in the corner, tears silently tracking down her face as she read through years of Victor's private journals, discovered in his study. Each page revealed new horrors, not just about their family, but about other victims. "Sarah wasn't the only one," Grace said softly, reading over Lydia's shoulder. "All those girls from his music program. He kept records of everything, like trophies." Morrison burst in, looking haggard. "The city's infrastructure is failing. Hospitals are on emergency power, banks are frozen, traffic systems are down. Whatever's in that final file must be devastating for him to go to these lengths." Suddenly Mia stopped playing. "Mom," her voice trembled. Did you ever suspect?" Lydia looked up, her heart breaking at the uncertainty in her daughter's eyes. "Suspect what, sweetheart?" "That I wasn't." Mia couldn't finish the sentence. The room fell silent. Victor's last cruel suggestion that Mia wasn't their biological daughter had planted seeds of doubt that threatened to destroy their healing family. "It doesn't matter," Lucas said firmly, kneeling beside his sister. "You're my sister. Nothing in any file can change that." But what if Mia's voice broke? What if I'm one of them? One of the girls he took? The possibility hung in the air like poison. Had Victor's obsession with controlling Mia stemmed from something even darker? Was she another stolen child, groomed to believe she was his daughter? Anna moved forward, her own trauma giving weight to her words. "Listen to me, Mia. I know what it's like to question everything about yourself, but you are not defined by Victor's actions. You are defined by your strength, your music, your heart." Lydia joined them at the piano, wrapping her arms around her daughter. "I remember every moment of your birth," she whispered. "Every first step, every smile. Victor can't take those truths from us." But doubt had taken root. Mia's fingers trembled over the keys as she resumed playing, each note carrying the weight of uncertainty. The melody she created was haunting a child's search for identity wrapped in music. Grace listened intently, her eyes widening. "Wait, play that sequence again." Mia repeated the pattern. Sarah used to hum something similar, Grace said, when she came back from her special lessons with Victor, like a nervous tick. It's a cipher, Lucas realized. He taught the same pattern to all of them, not just musical instruction. A code key, Morrison finished, hidden in trauma. Mia's hands began to shake. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't go back to those lessons, those moments." "You don't have to," Anna assured her. "We can find another way." No, Mia straightened her shoulders, looking suddenly older than her years. "This is my choice now, not his." She began to play again, but this time the music was different. Not Victor's rigid patterns, but her own interpretation, taking his control and transforming it into freedom. As she played, computer screens around the city flickered. The destruction slowed, then stopped. "It's working," Morrison reported, watching his phone. "Systems are stabilizing." But Mia didn't stop. Her music grew more intense, more personal, a key, not just to computer codes, but to years of buried truths. The final file began to decrypt. What they found inside shattered and healed them in equal measure. DNA tests, hospital records, birth certificates, all proving that Mia was indeed Lydia and Victor's biological daughter. But there was more. Evidence of other children. Dozens of them. Some adopted through Victor's charitable foundation, others simply taken. All subjected to his special music program, all carrying pieces of his encrypted secrets in their traumatized minds. But he made us all carry his sins, Mia said softly, her music finally fading to silence. Even when he's gone, he wanted us to be his prisoners. Lydia hugged her daughter fiercely. "But you transformed it. You took his weapon and turned it into healing." The sun had fully risen now, casting long shadows through the music room windows. Outside, the city was beginning to recover from Victor's final attack. But inside the Aldridge mansion, a different kind of healing was taking place. Grace touched the piano gently. "Sarah would be proud," she whispered. "You all broke the cycle she couldn't escape." Morrison's phone buzzed one final time. "Victor's complete files are being decoded. We'll find the other children, get them help." "And you," as Mia asked quietly, How do I move forward?" Anna took her hand. "One note at a time. Together." The healing wouldn't be easy. Victor's shadow would linger in dark corners, in sudden fears, in moments of doubt. But as Mia began to play again, this time a melody of her own creation, they knew they had finally broken free. The price of truth had been high, but the cost of silence would have been higher. The weeks following Victor's death brought revelation after revelation as his archives were fully decoded. In the Aldridge Mansion's library, now transformed into an investigation hub, Detective Morrison spread out the latest findings. 23 children, he reported grimly. All through his special music program, all carrying pieces of his encrypted data without knowing it. Lydia pressed a hand to her mouth, reviewing the files. Each child's story was a mirror of Mia's trauma, the forced practices, the psychological manipulation, the encoded musical patterns that Victor had buried in their minds. Some of them didn't survive, Morrison continued softly. Like Sarah, the ones who started to remember, to question. Grace clutched Sarah's photograph, her hands trembling. He didn't just kill them. He made it look like they'd chosen to die. Anna studied the complex web of connections they'd mapped on the wall. The music program was just the beginning. Look at this, every major child protection organization in the city had ties to Victor's foundation. He corrupted the entire system, Lucas added, reviewing financial records. Every institution that should have protected these children was under his influence. A small sound made them turn. Mia stood in the doorway, clutching a stack of sheet music. I found more, she said quietly. in the hidden room behind the practice hall. The hidden room had been their most disturbing discovery, yet a carefully maintained archive of Victor's work. Videos of music lessons that were actually programming sessions, journals documenting his methodology, photographs of children being systematically broken down and rebuilt as vessels for his secrets. "There's something else," Mia continued, her voice steady despite her pale face. "I remember now. The other teacher. The woman who helped him." Morrison leaned forward. "What woman, Mia?" "She called herself Madame Noir. She taught us the special scales, the ones that hurt to play. When we made mistakes, Mia's hands trembled on the sheet music." Anna wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You don't have to." "No, I need to say it." Mia took a deep breath. She would lock us in the soundproof practice rooms for hours, days sometimes, with the same piece playing over and over until we got it right, until the code was part of us. Lucas swore softly, remembering similar punishments from his childhood. "I thought those rooms were just for advanced students." "They were prisons," Grace said. "Sarah told me about them, but I didn't understand then. Thought she was being dramatic about strict teaching methods." Morrison was already on his phone. "I need everything we have on a Madame Noir, connected to Aldridge's music program. Yes, search international databases too." As they waited, Mia sat at the library's piano, her safe space now, reclaimed from Victor's control. She began to play, but not one of the encoded pieces. This was something new, something she'd composed about the other children. "Listen to the bridge," she said suddenly. "It's familiar, isn't it?" They all heard it, a subtle pattern woven into the melody, different from Victor's encoding, but clearly intentional. "That's impossible," Lucas breathed. "That's the same pattern from my violin lessons 20 years ago, before Madame Noir." Morrison's phone rang. "We found her," he announced. "Or rather, them. Madame Noir wasn't one person, it was a title, passed down through a network of teachers." The truth hit them like a physical blow. Victor hadn't created his system alone. He'd been part of something larger, something that had existed before him. The children's champion, Lydia, whispered bitterly. It wasn't just a philanthropy cover, it was a signal to others like him, other collectors. "How deep does this go?" Anna asked, her voice shaking. Morrison pulled up an international database. "We're finding similar patterns worldwide. Elite music schools, prestigious children's charities, all connected by the same encrypted teaching methods." "A network of monsters," Grace said softly, "using music to hide their secrets and control their victims." Mia's playing grew more intense, her composition transforming as she processed these revelations. The melody carried echoes of all the encoded patterns she'd been forced to learn, but transformed them into something powerful, accusatory. "They're still out there," she said, not stopping her playing. "Other children, carrying their secrets without knowing it. Like I was." Lucas studied his old violin scores with new horror. "Everything I learned, every prestigious music school I attended, was any of it real?" "The talent was real," Anna assured him. "They didn't give you that, they just tried to corrupt it." Morrison's team had set up a computer analysis of Mia's new composition. As she played, patterns emerged on the screen, not just Victor's encoding, but layers of other ciphers, other secrets buried in the music. "She's not just playing it," the technician announced. "She's decoding it, all of it, every layer they built into these children's minds." Mia's fingers flew over the keys, her music becoming a key to unlock decades of buried crimes. With each measure, more data emerged: names, dates, locations. An entire shadow network exposed through the very medium they'd used to hide. "It's not just about Victor anymore," Morrison said gravely. "This is bigger than we imagined. The question is, are we ready to face what we'll find?" They looked at each other, understanding the weight of what lay ahead. Victor's death hadn't ended the nightmare, it had only revealed its true scope. Mia finally stopped playing, her small face set with determination. The other children, she said, "We have to find them, help them understand what was done to them." The truth was darker than any of them had imagined. But in that darkness, music had become a light not just for her own healing, but for all the others still trapped in silence. The real work was just beginning. The revelations about Victor's international network sent shockwaves through the global child protection community. 1 month after his death, Lydia stood before the United Nations Council on Children's Rights, her voice steady as she addressed the assembled delegates. "My husband didn't just abuse children," she declared. "He weaponized their talents, turned their music into chains. And he wasn't alone. The system we trusted to protect our most vulnerable has been corrupted at its core." In the audience, Mia sat between Lucas and Anna, her composition book open to a new piece titled "Breaking the Silence Around the World." Hundreds of children like her were beginning to remember, to understand the true nature of their special musical education. Detective Morrison, now heading an international task force, presented the evidence. The network operates through prestigious music schools and children's charities. They select vulnerable children, isolate them through specialized programs, and use advanced psychological techniques to encode their secrets into the children's musical training. The screens showed brain scans, musical patterns overlaid with encrypted data. The delegates murmured in horror as they understood the sophistication of the abuse. "But there's hope," Morrison continued. "Thanks to Mia Aldridge's breakthrough, we can now decode these patterns. More importantly, we can help the children heal." Back in their city, change was already taking root. The Aldridge mansion had been transformed into a rehabilitation center for survivors of musical trauma. Grace, drawing on her years of witnessing both tragedy and resilience, headed the support staff. "We don't just teach them music again," she explained to a group of concerned parents. "We help them reclaim it, turn their prison into their power." In the practice rooms, now filled with light and always with open doors, children learned to play without fear. Anna worked closely with them, her own history of survival giving her unique insight into their healing process. "The music doesn't control you anymore," she told a young girl who trembled at the piano. "You control it." Lucas had taken charge of dismantling the financial network that had supported the abuse. His business skills, once used to hide from his trauma, now served to expose similar operations worldwide. "They used charity as a weapon," he testified before a Senate committee. "Every donation, every scholarship was designed to create dependency and silence." But the most powerful change came from the survivors themselves. Mia's composition, "Breaking the Silence," had become their anthem. As more children came forward, they added their own voices, their own melodies, turning their encoded trauma into a symphony of healing. "Listen to the counterpoint," Mia explained during a worldwide webinar for other survivors. "That's where we hid our true selves, in the notes between their control. That's how we survived." The Madame Noirs of the world were being hunted down, their prestigious music schools exposed as fronts for abuse. But the work of healing had only begun. The system didn't just fail these children, Lydia addressed a conference of child protection agencies. It was designed to fail them. We need to rebuild from the ground up. New protocols were established. Every music school, every children's charity underwent rigorous investigation. The patterns of isolation and control that Victor and his network had exploited were replaced with transparency and oversight. But perhaps the most significant change was in how society viewed child prodigies and specialized education. "Talent isn't an excuse for isolation," Lucas argued in a TED Talk that went viral. "Excellence doesn't require emotional imprisonment. We nearly lost a generation of musicians to these predators. Never again." In the Aldridge Center's main hall, now renamed Sarah's Space in memory of Grace's daughter, a wall displayed photographs of survivors who had reclaimed their music. Among them, Sarah's picture held a place of honor. "She was the first to try to warn us," Grace told each new group of parents. "Her death wasn't a tragedy, it was the first note of resistance. Now her song continues through every child we help. Mia, working with therapists and musicians, developed a new teaching method that incorporated healing techniques into musical education. The Legacy Project helped survivors recognize and transform their encoded patterns while supporting their genuine talent. Music was never meant to be a weapon, she explained in a documentary about the center's work. It's a language of freedom. They tried to use it to imprison us, but now we're using it to free others. The international investigation continued to uncover new layers of the network. Each revelation brought more survivors forward, more encoded patterns to decode, more chains to break. This isn't just about justice, Morrison told his task force. It's about changing how power operates in institutions meant to protect children. No more hidden rooms, no more silent suffering. Anna, watching a new group of children discover joy in music again, thought about how far they'd come. The system that had protected predators like Victor was crumbling, replaced by one built on transparency and healing. We can't undo what was done to us, she told a support group of parents, but we can ensure it never happens to another child. In her private practice room, Mia continued to compose. But now her music carried hope instead of hidden pain, strength instead of secrets. Other survivors added their voices, their experiences, their healing. Together, they were writing a new symphony, one of transformation, resilience, and freedom. The system was changing note by note, child by child, and in that change lay the seeds of a better world, one where music could never again be turned into chains. The revolution had begun with a single girl's courage to play her truth. It would continue until every encoded pattern was decoded, every silent voice freed. This was their legacy, not Victor's darkness, but the light they had found in breaking free. 1 year after Victor's death, the Aldridge Center hosted its first public concert. Survivors from around the world gathered to perform Symphony of Liberation, a collaborative piece that transformed their encoded trauma into triumph. Mia, now 11, took center stage. Her fingers found the keys with confidence as she began the opening movement. The melody carried echoes of her past pain, but transformed them into something powerful. Other survivors joined in violins, cellos, voices, each adding their own story of healing. The encoded patterns that once imprisoned them now wove together into a tapestry of freedom. In the audience, Lydia and Lucas watched with tears of pride. The foundation they'd established had already helped hundreds of children reclaim their music. Anna, now the center's lead trauma counselor, stood backstage supporting nervous performers. Grace sat in the front row, holding Sarah's photograph. "She's here with us," she whispered as the music swelled, in every note of healing. The center had become a beacon of hope. Children who arrived broken and silent found their voices again. Parents learned to recognize signs of manipulation. The system that had protected predators was being dismantled, replaced by one built on transparency and healing. Detective Morrison's International Task Force had identified over 200 survivors worldwide. Each new rescue brought more encoded patterns to light, more children to save. The healing isn't just individual, Anna explained to a documentary crew. It's collective. Each survivor's breakthrough helps others understand their own experience. Lydia had transformed her social connections into a network of support. Former charity balls became fundraisers for survivor rehabilitation. Society figures who had turned blind eyes now worked actively to expose abuse. Lucas used his business acumen to ensure survivors received compensation from seized assets. The Aldridge fortune, once built on exploitation, now funded healing and education. But the most profound change was in the survivors themselves. Children who had been isolated and controlled now formed strong bonds, supporting each other's recovery. Their music, once a prison, became a language of freedom. Mia's composition reached its finale, every survivor on stage playing together. The encoded patterns were still there, but transformed like scars that had healed into strength. As the last note faded, the audience rose in a standing ovation. But it wasn't just applause they heard, it was the sound of chains breaking, of silence ending, of light reclaiming darkness. The concert marked a beginning, not an end. There were still children to find, systems to change, healing to facilitate. But watching Mia bow with quiet confidence, surrounded by fellow survivors, they knew the path forward was clear. "Music isn't our prison anymore," Mia told reporters afterward. "It's our liberation." In Sarah's space, a new photo joined the wall, the survivors' orchestra, faces shining with pride. Below it, Grace had placed a simple plaque. "From silence to symphony. From chains to freedom. The journey continues." The healing wasn't complete, but it was real, profound, and growing stronger every day. The Aldridge Center's 5th anniversary dawned with promise. Mia, now 15, performed her latest composition, Echoes of Freedom, for a packed auditorium. Her music had evolved from healing trauma to inspiring change. Global impact spread beyond survivors. Music education underwent fundamental reform. The isolated practice rooms and rigid hierarchies that enabled abuse gave way to open spaces and collaborative learning. "We don't just teach music anymore," Mia explained in her TED Youth Talk. "We teach trust, boundaries, and the power of shared creativity." Lucas and Anna's wedding transformed the mansion's garden, once Victor's carefully controlled domain, into a celebration of new beginnings. Survivors from around the world attended, their music a testament to healing's possibility. Lydia's advocacy reached the highest levels of government. New legislation, dubbed Mia's Law, mandated transparency in children's organizations and established robust protection frameworks. The center developed pioneering therapy methods combining music and trauma recovery. Grace led workshops teaching parents and educators to recognize manipulation patterns. Her curriculum, inspired by Sarah's story, became standard training worldwide. Detective Morrison retired, but his task force continued identifying and supporting survivors. Each rescued child brought new insights into the network's methods, strengthening prevention efforts. The original survivors grew into mentors. Their experiences shaped policies protecting future generations. The encoded patterns, fully understood, became tools for identifying and preventing similar abuse. Mia's compositions toured internationally, performed by orchestras of survivors and allies. Each concert raised awareness and funds for rehabilitation programs. Her music spoke of triumph over trauma, of light reclaimed from darkness. Research at the center advanced understanding of music's role in both trauma and healing. The findings revolutionized therapy approaches worldwide. What began as one family's journey touched countless lives. The mansion's transformation completed with the opening of Sarah's Symphony Hall, a state-of-the-art performance space designed for inclusive, trauma-informed music education. Its first concert featured 1,000 survivors playing together, their music echoing hope instead of fear. "We've reclaimed more than our music," Mia told her fellow survivors. "We've reclaimed our future." Looking out from Sarah's hall, watching new students discover joy in music, the family reflected on their journey. Victor's shadow had faded, replaced by the light of thousands of freed voices. Grace kept Sarah's photo on her desk, but now it sat among images of healing and hope. Her daughter's tragedy had sparked a revolution in child protection and musical education. Anna and Lucas prepared for their first child, knowing they'd break the cycle of abuse. Their baby would know music as liberation, not control. The center became a model replicated globally. Its methods proved that healing was possible, that trauma could transform into strength. Lydia, watching Mia teach young students, saw the future they'd built from their pain. Music filled the mansion again, not with encoded secrets, but with pure joy. "This is our legacy," Mia told her students. "Not the chains they tried to bind us with, but the wings we found in breaking free." The symphony of healing continued, growing stronger with each liberated voice. Thank you for sharing this emotional journey with us. If this story touched your heart, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell to join our community of storytellers and advocates for change. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful narratives of healing and justice. Don't forget to like, share, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Every story shared is another voice amplified, another step toward healing. Share this with friends and family who might find strength in these stories of triumph over darkness. Together, we can break the silence and make a difference. Subscribe now for more inspiring stories of courage and resilience.